The day my husband Marcus walked out with his designer bags, he called me a poor nobody who'd never amount to anything. Little did he know, the woman he was leaving owned 3 Fortune 500 companies and had enough money to buy his precious mistress 10 times over. If you've ever been underestimated or had someone walk away thinking they knew your worth, this story will blow your mind. Make sure to hit that like button if you're ready for the ultimate revenge tale. And subscribe because trust me, you won't want to miss how this ends. My name is Arya, and for 8 years, I lived the most elaborate lie of my life. Every morning, I'd wake up in our modest 2-bedroom apartment, clip coupons from the Sunday paper, and head to my little nonprofit job downtown. My husband Marcus would kiss me goodbye, straighten his tie, and tell me he'd see me after another long day of providing for us. What he didn't know was that while he was out there hustling for his $60,000 salary, I was secretly running a business empire worth over $2 billion. You're probably wondering how someone hides that kind of wealth from their own husband. Well, it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. See, I learned early in life that when people know you have money, they treat you differently. They want something from you. They see dollar signs instead of a person. So, when I met Marcus in college, both of us eating ramen noodles and sharing textbooks because we couldn't afford our own, I thought I'd finally found someone who could love me for me. Marcus was charming, ambitious, and seemed genuinely interested in building a life together. He didn't know that while I was sitting next to him in our economics class, I was already running my first tech startup from my dorm room. By graduation, that little company had been acquired for $50 million. But Marcus thought I was just another broke college kid working part-time at the campus bookstore. After we got married, I maintained the facade perfectly. I worked at a small nonprofit called Community Bridge, helping underprivileged families access resources. What Marcus didn't know was that I had founded and funded that entire organization. I paid myself a modest salary and let everyone, including my husband, believe I was just a dedicated employee with a big heart and small bank account. Meanwhile, my real businesses operated under different names and shell companies. I had investments in renewable energy technology startups and real estate across 3 countries. My financial advisors knew me by different names. My board meetings happened during my volunteer work hours. I'd built an empire while my husband thought I was organizing charity bake sales. For years, this arrangement worked perfectly. Marcus was proud to be what he thought was the primary breadwinner. I got to use my wealth to help people through the nonprofit while living a simple life with someone I believe truly loved me. We had our little routines, our inside jokes, our dreams of maybe someday affording a house with a backyard. But as Marcus climbed the corporate ladder at his marketing firm, something started changing. He began making comments about my clothes, suggesting I dress more professionally. He started talking about his colleagues' wives and their expensive handbags, their country club memberships, their luxury cars. The way he said it, with this longing in his voice, made my stomach turn. Then came the late nights. Marcus started working until 8, then 9, then 10 o'clock. He'd come home exhausted, barely wanting to talk about his day. His phone became attached to his hand, and he'd step out to take certain calls. When I'd ask who it was, he'd wave me off, saying it was work stuff I wouldn't understand. The expensive gifts started appearing. A new watch that definitely cost more than his monthly salary. Designer shoes, a leather briefcase that looked like it came from somewhere I'd never shop, at least not in my Arya persona. When I asked about them, he said they were bonuses, rewards for his hard work. I wanted to believe him because the alternative was too painful to consider. But the credit card statement doesn't lie. I found it on a Tuesday afternoon while organizing our bills. Usually, Marcus handled the finances because he insisted on being the man of the house, but he'd left the statement on the kitchen counter, and one line item made my blood freeze. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Hotel charges in the middle of weekdays when he was supposed to be at the office. Jewelry purchases that never found their way to me. The name on the vendor receipts kept appearing. Serafina Vance, Vance Luxury Real Estate. I hired a private investigator that same day. Within a week, I had photos, phone records, and a complete profile of my husband's other life. Serafina Vance was everything I appeared not to be. She drove a white Tesla, lived in a penthouse downtown, wore designer clothes that cost more than most people's rent. She specialized in luxury properties and apparently specialized in married men, too. The photos were devastating, but not surprising. Marcus looked happier with her than I'd seen him in months. They held hands walking into upscale restaurants. He opened her car door, something he'd stopped doing for me years ago. In one photo, they were looking at engagement rings. Engagement rings while he was still married to me. That night, I sat at our little kitchen table staring at those photos until Marcus came home at nearly midnight. He walked in, saw me sitting there, and immediately knew something was wrong. "We need to talk," I said, sliding the photos across the table. He didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he sat down and looked at me with something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Disgust. "You want to know the truth, Arya? I'm embarrassed by you. I'm embarrassed by this apartment, by your thrift store clothes, by having to make excuses to my colleagues about why my wife doesn't drive a decent car or belong to any clubs. Serafina understands success. She understands ambition. Your content being nobody." Those words hit me like physical blows. Nobody. After everything I'd achieved, everything I'd built, my own husband saw me as nobody. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you this," he continued. "But honestly, Serafina and I are serious. She's successful. She's sophisticated. She gets what it means to want more out of life. You're stuck in this small-minded world of charity work and coupon clipping." I found my voice somehow. "So, what are you saying, Marcus?" "I'm saying you need to decide what kind of woman you want to be. Get a real job. Start caring about how you present yourself. Act like a wife I can be proud of, or I'm done pretending this marriage works." He gave me an ultimatum. Me, the woman whose yearly charitable donations exceeded his lifetime earnings, was being given an ultimatum by a man who couldn't afford his girlfriend's lifestyle. I looked at my husband of 8 years and realized I didn't know him at all. This man who I'd loved, who I'd built a life with, who I'd hidden my true self from to protect our relationship, was telling me I wasn't good enough, not successful enough, not ambitious enough. "You know what, Marcus, you're right. You deserve someone who matches your ambitions." He looked surprised by my calm response. I think he expected me to beg, to promise to change, to fight for our marriage. Instead, I stood up and walked to our bedroom. "What are you doing?" he called after me. "Giving you what you want. Pack your things. Go be with your successful, sophisticated girlfriend." The next morning, I watched my husband load his car with everything he deemed valuable. His clothes, his electronics, his precious watch collection. He left behind anything that connected him to our poor life together. Before he drove away, he rolled down his window for one final insult. "Serafina has a penthouse and drives a Tesla. What do you have? Nothing. You'll realize what you lost when you're sitting alone in this dump, clipping coupons for the rest of your life." I stood in my doorway wearing my favorite thrift store cardigan and discount jeans and watched the man I'd loved for over a decade drive out of my life. As his car disappeared around the corner, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. For the first time in 8 years, I could stop pretending to be poor. That afternoon, I called my assistant using my real phone for the first time in our apartment. "Patricia, it's me. Schedule board meetings for all 3 companies this week and call my stylist. I need a complete wardrobe refresh. It's time for the real me to come out." You see, while Marcus thought he was married to a nobody, he'd actually been living with Arya Rodriguez-Chun, CEO of 3 Fortune 500 companies. My renewable energy company had just signed a $1 billion government contract. My tech firm had developed software now used by every major hospital system in the country. My investment portfolio included early stakes in companies that were now household names. The nonprofit where I worked was actually my personal project. I'd started Community Bridge because I wanted to give back to communities like the one I grew up in. We'd helped over 10,000 families access housing, education, and healthcare resources. The modest salary I paid myself was just for show. While I donated millions through various foundations I'd established, my net worth was $2.3 billion and growing every quarter. While Marcus was explaining to Serafina why he suddenly needed a place to stay, I was finally living authentically for the first time in years. I moved out of our little apartment and into my real home, a private estate I'd owned for 5 years, but never used. I started attending business events under my real name. I stopped hiding my success behind fake modesty and thrift store disguises, but I wasn't done with Marcus and Serafina yet. My private investigator continued monitoring their situation, and the reports were fascinating. Serafina's luxury real estate business was hemorrhaging money. Her penthouse was mortgaged to the hilt. The Tesla was leased and she was behind on payments. Her designer lifestyle was funded entirely by credit cards and loans she couldn't afford. Marcus, meanwhile, had quit his job thinking he was about to marry into money. He figured he'd live off Serafina's success and maybe get a generous alimony settlement from his poor ex-wife. What he didn't know was that Serafina was expecting him to solve her financial problems. Within 3 months, their perfect romance was cracking under financial pressure. Serafina started pressurizing Marcus to get more money from me in the divorce. Marcus hired a lawyer and demanded half of my assets, expecting to get maybe $20,000 and some furniture. Imagine his shock when my legal team responded with a complete financial disclosure. By law, I had to reveal my true worth during divorce proceedings. The look on his lawyer's face when he opened that folder must have been priceless. Marcus called me that night hysterical. "This is some kind of joke, right? The papers say you're worth over $2 billion. That can't be real." "It's very real, Marcus. Did you think Community Bridge ran itself? Did you wonder how we never seemed to struggle financially even on your salary alone? I've been supporting our entire lifestyle while building my companies." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for nearly a minute. "You lied to me for 8 years. I protected myself and apparently I was right to do it. The moment you thought you found someone with more money, you threw away our marriage. You just proved that you never loved me at all. Arya, we can work this out. We can fix this." "No, Marcus, we can't. You made your choice when you decided I wasn't successful enough for you. You wanted ambitious. You wanted sophisticated. You wanted wealthy. You had all of that at home. But you were too shallow to see it." 6 months after Marcus moved out, I received a wedding invitation. Despite their financial problems, Marcus and Serafina had decided to get married. I could tell from the cheap paper and basic design that they were hoping for expensive gifts to solve their money troubles. I decided to attend. I called my stylist and asked for something spectacular. The dress I chose cost $45,000. My jewelry for the evening was worth more than most people's houses. I arrived in my Rolls-Royce with a professional driver because I wanted to make an entrance they'd never forget. The wedding was at a modest venue, clearly the cheapest option they could find. As I walked in, conversations stopped. People stared. Marcus's family, who had always treated me like the poor relation, suddenly couldn't stop looking at me. Marcus saw me during the cocktail hour. His face went white. "Arya, you look—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Different. This is who I've always been, Marcus. This is the woman you called nobody." Serafina appeared at his side, and I could see her doing the math, the dress, the jewelry, the confidence. This wasn't the dowdy ex-wife she'd been expecting. During the reception, I asked to say a few words. The room went quiet as I stood up. Every inch the successful businesswoman I'd always been. "I want to congratulate Marcus and Serafina on finding each other. Marcus, you told me you needed someone who understood success and ambition, someone who could match your lifestyle aspirations. I'm so happy you found that in Serafina." I paused, looking directly at Marcus. "You also told me I was nobody, that I'd never amount to anything, that I should be embarrassed by my small life and lack of ambition. Well, Marcus, I want you to know that the nobody you left has donated more to charity this year than you'll earn in your lifetime. The woman with no ambition just opened her 3rd international office. The wife you were embarrassed by employs over 1,500 people across her companies." The room was dead silent. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I spent 8 years hiding my success because I thought you loved me for who I was inside. Turns out you're exactly the kind of person I was trying to avoid. Someone who only values wealth and status. The irony is you had both at home and walked away from it." I raised my champagne glass. "So here's to Marcus and Serafina. May you give each other exactly what you deserve." I left immediately after that. I didn't need to stay for their reaction or their attempts to reconcile. I said what I needed to say. Marcus called me dozens of times over the next few weeks. He sent flowers, letters, even showed up at my office building. Security escorted him out every time. Serafina tried reaching out through social media, suddenly very interested in my business ventures and investment opportunities. I ignored them both. Today, 3 years later, I'm living my authentic life. I'm dating someone who knew about my wealth from day one and loves me anyway. I've expanded my charitable work and started a foundation that helps women leaving difficult marriages get back on their feet financially. Marcus and Serafina divorced within 2 years. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership and living in a studio apartment. Serafina lost her real estate license and moved back in with her parents. I don't take pleasure in their downfall, but I do take satisfaction in knowing that I never have to pretend to be less than I am ever again. The lesson here isn't about revenge. It's about knowing your worth and never letting someone convince you that you're not enough. Marcus saw my kindness as weakness, my humility as failure, my genuine nature as inadequacy. He threw away something real for something that looked shinier on the surface. I learned that hiding who you are to keep someone's love isn't love at all. Real love doesn't require you to diminish yourself. Real love celebrates your success, not resent it. Some people will always judge by appearances, by what they can see on the surface, but your worth isn't determined by their ability to recognize it. You know who you are. You know what you've accomplished. You know your value. Don't ever let someone convince you that you're nobody, especially when you're actually somebody extraordinary. Sometimes the people who underestimate us give us the greatest gift. They remove themselves from our lives. If this story inspired you to never let anyone dim your light, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Drop a comment telling me about a time someone underestimated you. I read every single one.